Whew, I almost didn't make it, guys. I've been caught up playing Final Fantasy 15 and going back and reading older comics on Marvel Unlimited, which, if you guys didn't know, in light with Ant-Man and the Wasp coming out, Marvel is doing a promotion on their Marvel Unlimited comics page. For 2 cents, you guys can get 1 month of 20,000 plus Marvel comics, really anything you would want to read if you use the promo code GHOST at checkout. It's what I've been doing lately, and you guys can see I almost went under from it, but I've been having a blast with it. But anyways, welcome back, guys. My name is Terrence, and this is Comic Break 98, where I'm going to break down your favorite Marvel and DC storylines for all of you guys' viewing pleasures. And this is it, guys. We have finally reached the 6th issue and the final issue in Marvel and Jim Starlin's The Infinity Gauntlet. And you know, this is really a milestone for us because this will be our first story that we finish. And wow, yeah, I really feel like I accomplished something. But basically, if you guys hadn't watched issue number 5, The Astral Conflagration, which I'll leave the links in the description to the first 5 issues, Thanos lost the Infinity Gauntlet to Nebula, and now we're going to see this final attempt of Adam Warlock, Silver Surfer, and Thanos and Doctor Strange as they try to take the Infinity Gauntlet from Nebula. And guys, let's do it. Let's end it. It all comes to an end right here. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into Infinity Gauntlet issue number 6, The Final Confrontation. So picking up right where we had left off at the end of issue number 5, The Astral Conflagration, we had seen the Infinity Gauntlet changing hands from Thanos to Nebula, and Adam Warlock launching this final plan with Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, and Thanos himself to try and usurp the Infinity Gauntlet from Nebula. The story brings us back to that very same moment. We see that actually Thanos and Nebula are engaged in a sort of dialogue where Thanos is telling her that even though that he had lost the Infinity Gauntlet to her, that would do her little good, and if she returns the Infinity Gauntlet, then Thanos will forgive her. And he even goes so far as to say that if she does, he might even appoint her as one of his lieges of sorts. But Nebula, obviously, as anyone would probably say if they had the power of the Infinity Gauntlet on their side, she obviously is not going for this. But you can see that in the background, the Silver Surfer is thinking to himself that Nebula said 2 little friends, which in issue number 5, at the very last panel, Nebula had seen only Thanos, Doctor Strange, and the Silver Surfer. She hadn't noticed Adam Warlock. And we find out why this is actually now, after Nebula uses the Infinity Gauntlet to encase Thanos and the Captain America ankle grab 3.0. Man, she is going ham with these things. But what we find out from the thoughts of Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, and Thanos is that Adam Warlock exists outside of the realms of chaos and order, and because of this, Nebula is unaware of Adam Warlock's presence, meaning that it really is levels to the Infinity Gauntlet. You know, Thanos possessing the Infinity Gauntlet and his level of intellect, his level of power, it really outshines Nebula's on a whole different scale, so that Thanos using the Infinity Gauntlet, he really has truly full sensory input of all the things that it is in reality. And Nebula, she doesn't. She's basically driven by the fact that she just has this newfound power, and she's really just coming into her own with it, and really that will be her downfall. And we can see that when Thanos comments on Nebula's lackluster use of the Infinity Gauntlet, you know, her not being able to exploit the gems properly, we can see that Nebula says to Thanos, she basically counteracts him, and she says that Thanos, does he believe that he has the power? And Thanos, obviously, he says yes, because, and he really does have a lot of truth, you know, all of the things he had accomplished so far, as he tells her. And Nebula really remarks and says, like, great deeds of killing half of the universe, which, man, they're all just throwing points at each other, man, good God. And Thanos basically counteracts Nebula's remark of him, you know, killing half of the universe by saying he was actually thinning the herd. And she remarks and calls it pure insanity. And it's something that is beyond her comprehension what he had to do. But Nebula basically tells Thanos that his reign of being the supreme being, of being the focal point, that's a blasphemy that she can't allow to stand, and now that the power of the Infinity Gems are in her hands, that she will see that it does not. But we can see that in the background, Adam Warlock is signaling to Doctor Strange to perform some sort of move on Nebula. We can see that Thanos notices this as well. And we can see that when we come back to Nebula, she uses the Infinity Gauntlet's power to set everything that it was exactly 24 hours ago, but with the only exception that she retains the Infinity Gauntlet. But even still, watch this. So from here, the story jumps from many perspectives around the Marvel Universe, so we can see that Nebula's wish of making everything exactly as it was 24 hours ago, it really became a reality. And we can see that all of the superheroes, and mainly all of the superheroes who were killed as a result of Thanos blinking half of their life away, they've all returned. And some of them may not remember, some of them do remember, but even still, anyone who does, it will just leave this nagging feeling over them that this force that they had just faced is something that none of them could ever face on their own, and really is something far greater than any of them can comprehend. But even still, a new day is born because the power has changed from one hand to another, the power of the Infinity Gauntlet. And even still, because of this, the game is still going. But, basically everyone's back. We saw this coming. They're not going to kill all of these superheroes and just leave them dead. But, well, you can do it with comic books because, they always can come back. But even still, I think this speaks volumes for Infinity War. Obviously, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, those guys aren't dead. And I think that's really no type of spoiler to say that. But yeah, it's just, it happened in the story. It's an adaptation of the story. So, yeah, I mean, happy days. But when we return to the Shrine of Nebula, we can see that the whole problem with her setting everything back to the way it was 24 hours ago, that will put her back to that form that Thanos had placed her on, that line of life and death. And we can see that when she returns back to this form, she does have the Infinity Gauntlet as she had wished, but she really can't do anything with it. But we can see that when Thanos tries to reach out and reclaim the Infinity Gauntlet for himself, Nebula wills herself back to the form that she was recently at, and she re-encases Thanos in the Captain America ankle grab 3.0, where she still reigns supreme. But from this point, we can see that Adam Warlock really takes this time to reveal himself to Nebula in an attempt to usurp the Infinity Gauntlet from her. And we can see that when Nebula reacts to this attack on her, she accidentally uses the Infinity Gauntlet's power to blast the Silver Surfer, but she also does fend off Adam Warlock, essentially knocking him off of the shrine that they were just at. And when Doctor Strange is coming over to check on Silver Surfer, we can see that Nebula is wondering to herself, how can the Silver Surfer and Doctor Strange survive? How is it that they can still remain? And she thinks, because you remember, she can't see Adam Warlock, she's still not on that level of intellectual input to notice all of the things around her, anything that exists in this reality and outside of it. So she really thinks that Doctor Strange was the one that tried to make this move against her, and so she uses the Infinity Gauntlet's power to encase Doctor Strange's hand so that she thinks that he won't be another problem. And we can see that Thanos continuously taunts Nebula, and he tells her that you may have righted this wrong, but as you'll soon come to learn, some mistakes are worse than others, and when you least expect it, your greatest mistakes that you would never thought to return, they come back to haunt you. And when Nebula turns around, she realizes that her willing everything back to the way it was 24 hours ago had released all of the cosmic beings again. So now it's another showdown. Nebula versus the cosmic beings. In this clash, just like we had seen with Thanos, in the initial conflict, there is a blinding, immense blast of power, and we can obviously tell that anyone caught in this immediate vicinity, they're gone. And we can see that Silver Surfer and Adam Warlock are actually there, and it seems that reality is cracking around them. But when Silver Surfer opens his eyes, he sees that him and Adam Warlock are returned to Soul World. So I don't really know if they're dead or not, because if they were, I would guess that Doctor Strange and Thanos would be here too. So I'm just assuming that Adam Warlock used his connection to the Soul Stone to basically put him and the Silver Surfer there on his own accord. But when Adam Warlock asks the Silver Surfer why they returned to Soul World, Adam Warlock basically tells him that it's exactly what we had suspected. His connection to the Soul Stone and him being in Soul World, his power here is greater than anywhere else in the entire universe. And because this is all a part of his plan, because Adam Warlock knew that the threat of the Infinity Gauntlet could not be neutralized until the Gauntlet had changed hands from Thanos to whoever else. Because you guys have to remember, Thanos, he's on a completely different level of intellectual capacity, and him holding the Infinity Gauntlet, he had complete sensory input of all things that existed. He was aware of everything that existed in this universe and outside of it, meaning he knew that Adam Warlock was there, and essentially meaning that he would know any type of plan that Adam Warlock would try to make up against him. And Nebula possessing the Infinity Gauntlet, her inexperience with this type of godhood power and her current confusion is the only edge that they will be able to use to try and usurp the Infinity Gauntlet from her. And Silver Surfer basically tells Adam Warlock that you knew that Thanos was going to lose the Infinity Gauntlet this entire time, and Adam Warlock tells him that yes. And you guys remember from, what was it, issue number 5, the Astral Conflagration, after Thanos had lost the gauntlet and him and Adam Warlock had that conversation. Adam Warlock knows how Thanos' mind works on a level that Thanos probably doesn't even know himself. But when Silver Surfer asks Adam Warlock, what now? Adam Warlock tells him that he has to do what must be done, and he'll need the Silver Surfer's assistance in this. And when Silver Surfer asks him in what fashion, Adam Warlock basically tells him that they will have to do the same thing that him and Doctor Strange did in issue number 2, when he had come to Doctor Strange and informed him of Thanos coming with the Infinity Gauntlet, he needs a spiritual anchor, so they will have to combine both of their spirits so that they will have a full understanding of each other. But when we return to Nebula and her conflict against the cosmic entities, we find out from Thanos that the cosmic beings had learned well from their initial encounter when Thanos had possessed the Infinity Gauntlet. Because you guys have to remember, when they had fought Thanos, they had initially attacked one at a time before they had all come together. But this time, they sensed that Nebula has a light grasp on this omnipotent power. So they really used this moment to really attack her all together and try to hammer her with a relentless amount of power to try to keep her concentrated on the multi-level plane of existence, you know, keeping her, I guess, fixated on the idea that she doesn't want to be defeated, rather than trying to flesh out her powers and figuring out all the things that she can do with the power of the Infinity Gauntlet. And really, it's anything, but even still, with this plan that the cosmic entities are doing, they're essentially keeping Nebula from tapping into her full potential with the Infinity Gauntlet. But we can see that the plan actually seems to be working, but we know Thanos, when he comes back to him, he says that, of course, the plan would not have worked on him, obviously. But it didn't. But from this point, when we return to Adam Warlock and the Silver Surfer back in Soul World, we can see that the melding of souls between the two of them had essentially worked. But Silver Surfer remarks to Adam Warlock, and he tells him that illumination and understanding are two very different things, because even though that Silver Surfer knows the entirety of the plan that Adam Warlock is about to perform against Nebula, he still doesn't understand it. But even still, he wonders, like, the psyche around Adam Warlock. How can he just be so detached from all life in general? But Adam Warlock even remarks to Silver Surfer, but he tells him that that isn't of any importance. And we'll find out about that more in other issues about Adam Warlock, like the Infinity Watch and Infinity War, so on and so forth. We'll get to that as it happens, but we can see that while Adam Warlock is still talking to Silver Surfer and basically giving him a dialogue of how him and the Silver Surfer are basically defenders of reality, we can see that he's taking a page out of Ant-Man's book, and he's actually growing astronomically large, to the point where it's like he's in space of Soul World, which, that's weird. He's in a different reality universe of a alternate reality. Whoa! But all jokes aside, this is Adam Warlock's final plan coming into fruition. But when we return to Nebula and her conflict against the cosmic beings, we can see that she's really still taking a spin with this power, literally, as she's like throwing all of them around in this like Infinity Gauntlet power, super crazy tornado. It's amazing. But we can see that Doctor Strange and Thanos are talking to each other. We can see that they're realizing that everything now that happens from this point on is now on Adam Warlock's timing, and it has to be perfect unless everything is going to be lost. But when we return to Soul World, we can see that Silver Surfer is wondering, where is Adam Warlock? But then we see that Adam Warlock is like in space. He looks like the Eternity. He's basically become the Eternity of Soul World. And with a quick cut, we are back at Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum following Gamora and Iron Man as they both arrive there. And we can see that as they're talking to Pip the Troll and his green Minotaur friend that we had talked about earlier, I think in issue number 3, we can see that Pip basically reveals to Gamora and really the readers that this entire plan of Thanos deleting half of the life and them all coming back at the end after Nebula had possessed the Infinity Gauntlet, this was all a part of his plan, and in mere moments, this entire fiasco of this Infinity Gauntlet dilemma, it's going to be put to a close. And in the great words of Pip the Troll himself, it's going to close with a bang. But returning to the demolished shrine of whoever, we can see that it's almost as if Thanos can sense what Adam Warlock is doing, because he's like, it's almost over. And when we return to the universe of the Soul World, we can see that Adam Warlock is essentially talking to the Soul Stone, and he says that through this one stone, he reaches out to the other 5 stones. And we can see that before Adam Warlock is able to launch this plan to get the gauntlet to, I guess, fall off of Nebula's hand, we can see that Nebula has essentially defeated all of the cosmic beings, and she's created her new shrine, like the Shrine of Nebula, and she's basically, this is like the Captain America ankle grab 20 point, what I said 3.0, this is like 20.0, like she's done it. But when we return to Silver Surfer in Soul World, he's still so clueless on what Adam Warlock is doing. He's just like, Adam, hey, don't get lost out there, man. I know it's really easy to do so, as if he could go anywhere else besides Soul World unless someone frees him from the Soul Stone. But when we return to Nebula, we can see that when she's talking to Thanos, she's telling him that he's going to bear witness to this new astral dynasty that will last perhaps forever. And when she asks Thanos, what will he have to say to that? Thanos replies and he tells her to let there be disharmony, as Adam Warlock says. And when we come back to Silver Surfer, he's still like, Adam, you gotta come back. Suddenly, Nebula's possession of the Infinity Gauntlet's power seems to be corrupted, and when she's asking to herself, "What is this?" Thanos remarks and he replies that it's retribution, as the Infinity Gauntlet falls off of Nebula's hand, and Doctor Strange is like, it's time to call in the reserves because now the gauntlet is up for grabs for everyone. And obviously we know the first person who's lunging for that gauntlet is Thanos, and as we can see, before he can grab it, Doctor Strange uses his abilities to grab the Infinity Gauntlet himself, and he puts it in some sort of bubble, as the rest of the reserves, essentially Hulk, Thor, Drax the Destroyer, and Fire-Lord, essentially come to try to stop Thanos and take the Infinity Gauntlet from everyone. And we can see that they're basically in this mad dash for the gauntlet, but we can see that as they're running from it, Thor actually down Thanos, Fire-Lord takes down Nebula, and Drax and Hulk actually get into it with each other. You know, this is a slow Drax. And they're like, Hulk is like, "Idiot, I'm on your freaking side, man." But we can see that as this rush is just getting more and more rowdy and just scrappy and basically more down in the dirt, we can see that a blinding flash of light occurs, and when the light fades away, we can see that Adam Warlock has emerged from the Infinity Gauntlet itself and has become the new possessor of its power. And with this, Adam Warlock has essentially ended the threat of the Infinity Gauntlet. And the first thing that Adam Warlock does, with him being the new supreme being in the entirety of the Marvel Universe, is that he frees all the cosmic beings. And obviously we know Thanos has the most problem with this out of anyone. He believes that the gauntlet belongs to him, but Adam Warlock tells Thanos that he would only lose it again and he doesn't really desire it. And Nebula is like, "You guys really think that he should have this power? What right does he have?" And Adam Warlock tells her, as he's flaring up the power of the Infinity Gauntlet, is that he has the right of possession, and that will be enough, and the infinite power is now Adam Warlock's, and they shouldn't dispute that claim. And when he said that, everybody just looking at him like, oh, well, nah, they can't really say anything. They just gotta be like, alright. Because you guys have to remember, if Adam Warlock wasn't here, it's very safe to say that Thanos would have definitely won. Like, I don't think Adam Warlock says that Thanos would have probably lost the Infinity Gauntlet, but I think just Adam Warlock being the player in this entire game, that was the main reason that Thanos had lost the Infinity Gauntlet, and that Adam Warlock has the gauntlet now. If He's the one that really can do some crazy reality altering stuff. Because you guys have to remember, when he was talking to Silver Surfer, he told him that he even knows the workings of the Infinity Gems in ways that even he can understand. So he'll probably do something. Ooh, Infinity War, the Magus, never mind. But he promises them that he'll use its power wisely. But we can see that Hulk and Drax the Destroyer are questioning Adam Warlock about what should they do with Thanos, because they want their rounds with him after everything that he has done. But we can see that when both of them try to run up on Thanos and try to, I guess, fight him, he bitch slapped the both of them right across the face, and he clicks something on his belt, and we realize, or he reveals to us, that it's a thermonuclear device that he had set on himself that's going to detonate in 15 seconds. And Thanos, Silver Surfer's like, "Why would you do this?" And Thanos, I mean, it's really in line with his character. He tells him that he would prefer death rather than imprisonment, and that's is really the fatal flaw in Thanos' whole character, his pride for the love of Mistress Death. I mean, he really doesn't have anything to lose, because, I mean, if they kill him, then, he's going to go with Mistress Death. I mean, she hates him, but, I mean, Thanos, to each his own, And Thanos, he redeemed himself in helping the universe's forces and usurping the Infinity Gauntlet from Nebula. But the one thing that we can count on from Thanos, and we had said this about him in earlier issues of the Infinity Gauntlet, is that he is an ultra thirst god, own that, man. Go get your girl. She don't want you. But obviously, 15 seconds, they don't really have the time to try and deactivate the bomb, so Thor takes it upon himself to do it. He winds up Mjolnir, and he slaps the taste out of Thanos, sending him flying out into the galaxy, where he goes. Whew, that really was a way to go, but that's exactly what you would expect from Thanos, as we hear from Hulk and Eros. But from here, Eros basically tells Adam Warlock that him being a representative of the sovereign state of Titan, that he will claim custody of Nebula, and they will judge her and imprison her. So Adam Warlock used the Infinity Gauntlet's power, really the Space Stone, to teleport them away to, handle their business, and leaving him, Doctor Strange, Thor, and the Silver Surfer still there. But when the remainder of the party begins to question Adam Warlock on why is it that the three of them still remain, Adam Warlock tells them that this is because each of them have had the opportunity to gaze into the depths of his heart. Silver Surfer and Doctor Strange, we had seen this during the events of the Infinity Gauntlet, but Thor, I guess he had kept him there because you guys remember when I was talking about Adam Warlock and his origin story, how he had fought Thor in an attempt to make Sif his wife. I guess it was during that issue that they had performed this melding of souls, and Thor is still here, so yeah. But Silver Surfer tells Adam Warlock that all of this happened before he had possessed the Infinity Gauntlet. But Adam Warlock tells the Silver Surfer that this makes no difference because they had still seen his soul. And so he asks all the three of them to go forth and tell the masses that Adam Warlock is a god that can be trusted. And Doctor Strange tells him, and it's very plausible that everyone else probably won't believe that, because if you can do all of this, you can like change the reality of the universe, change it to anything you want. I mean, there's really nothing that anyone can say to you. You can say that you're a god to be trusted, but how would they know? How would they know that you've changed reality, wiped their minds, or done anything? You really can't. But it's, you know, it's just one of those things. You just gotta suck it up and hope for the best. But Adam Warlock, what he says here, it really puts the nail in the coffin that everything's going to be okay, in my opinion. But he tells him that surely you have to realize that even before Thanos, that they had lived under a lot of tyranny. And Thor said, and what he means is like the average run-of-the-mill supervillain just coming attacking Earth and the heroes stopping them. Thor tells him that this is a benign reign, random and unfocused. They were always just doing what you would expect a bad guy to do. And Adam Warlock basically tells him, so now that the thing that you find to be evil is calculated, you find this unsettling. And he tells him that, are you afraid that replacing your usual order and chaos for something that's more calculated, something more focused, that makes you feel uncertain, that makes you feel scared? And they just like, oh, you bastard, you got us. But he continues, and it really seems like he's talking to himself, because he's saying that the distance between who he was before he had possessed the Infinity Gauntlet and who he is now with it in his full possession, it's insurmountable. And it's almost like an ant contemplating the cosmos as he compares it to. But even still, he knew this would be so. Like at the end of this entire Infinity Gauntlet dilemma, that he would be the possessor of the Infinity Gauntlet, yet still he hoped. And it's weird, like, why would he think that? Why would you not want to be, you know everything about how this is going to play out, why would you not want to have the Infinity Gauntlet? But it's just another question about what Silver Surfer was asking about, like his whole psyche, like how he views life and death. But we can see that the Earth's forces, they're still like dead silent. And Adam Warlock, he says, so I guess there really is nothing left to say. So he uses the Infinity Gauntlet's power to teleport all of them on their way to wherever they're going. So I guess back to the Sanctum Sanctorum, back into the universe, to just be the Herald of Galactus, and back to Asgard. But in their place, he brings forth both Gamora and Pip the Troller, when they're like, this is amazing, like what's happening? Before Adam Warlock even gives them an explanation, he again teleports them to another unspecified location. And when Pip the Troll asks Adam Warlock where the heck are they, Adam Warlock tells him and Gamora that they are all 60 days into the future on an unnamed planet. And Pip believes this to be impossible, but we've seen throughout the entire events of the Infinity Gauntlet that if you possess the Infinity Gauntlet, impossible really has no meaning to you. But Gamora asks Adam Warlock, what are they doing there? And he tells her that they're paying a visit. To who and why? It's because it's what he always does after becoming a god. And Gamora asks him, always? And he says it's because time is a repeating loop to him now. You have to remember, him possessing the Infinity Gauntlet and the Time Stone and every other stone, like the Space Stone and the Reality Stone, as long as existence really exists, as long as time exists, Adam Warlock will always be there. So he's really omnipresent. So yeah, time is essentially a repeating loop to him. But in the distance, we can see that Pip seems to have spotted Thanos, but after a closer look, they see that it's only Thanos' Warmonger armor in the form of a scarecrow. So it's revealed to us that Adam Warlock had basically brought them 60 days into the future to an unnamed planet, to Thanos' current location. And the conversation that Adam Warlock and Thanos have is a conversation that Adam Warlock reveals to Thanos that they had had many a time before. So I guess Adam Warlock still on that repeating loop, continuously stopping the Infinity Gauntlet confrontation and then coming to this resolution over and over again to have this conversation with Thanos. But really the question that Adam Warlock always asks Thanos is to either endure or surrender the power. And what Thanos realized about Adam Warlock, because he doesn't know that it's been on this repeating loop, but he can just tell in the way that Adam Warlock approached him that he comes to his own conclusion that he will endure the power. But it's really resolution for Thanos, setting up where he'll be in the events taking place in Infinity War. But yeah, he basically sought out this quiet life to basically dwell on his sins and just try to redeem himself from all of the death and destruction that he had caused before. But I want to say this real fast. A lot of people have been asking, where does Avengers 4 take place? And I feel like it's right here in these pages. And I feel like we saw the beginning of Avengers 4 at the end of Avengers Infinity War. Because I feel like whenever Thor stabbed Thanos with Stormbreaker and he said, and he left, I feel like it wasn't where did Thanos go, it's when did he go? And I feel like it's here, 60 days into the future on that planet that looked extremely like this one. But after this conversation between the two concludes and Adam Warlock and Gamora and Pip the Troll are on their way, they really have a problem with Adam Warlock leaving Thanos there unscathed. Like, Thanos is a monster as they think, but we saw in the events of Infinity Gauntlet, and we'll see later in the events in Infinity War, Thanos is a redeemable figure, you know, however deranged, however fixated on death that he is. Thanos is a man who can, or a being that, you know, can right his wrongs if he believes himself to be in the right. But Adam Warlock tells the two of them that Thanos is merely a piece like all of the others, all of the cosmic beings, all of the Earth's forces, small pieces in this giant mosaic puzzle that is his universe, and without Thanos, the picture is incomplete. And really, Gamora and Pip the Troll really don't have anything to say about Adam Warlock's entire outlook on this Infinity Gauntlet dilemma. So with this, we see the first instance of the Infinity Watch, really the first half of it, on their way. From here, we get a final reflection from Thanos on how he's reflecting on this entire dilemma, on his quest for power, how it's hard to gain but extremely easy to lose, as we had seen, and what he once thought he understood, it was a vanity to him. And he thinks about Adam Warlock and how he was a being who wished nothing more to spend out the rest of his days in the Soul Gem, who now possesses the power infinite, the Infinity Gauntlet, and all of the responsibility that goes along with it, while Thanos is there in this unnamed planet, like, finding a living from the soil. But even after all of this, he doesn't envy Adam Warlock, because in the long run, Thanos believes that Thanos came out ahead in this particular ordeal, which he definitely did. Like, he saw the 6 Infinity Gems, he had Mishra's death for a time, he beat all the cosmic beings, he beat all the Earth's forces, wiped out half of the life in the universe, got beat about, he had a blast, and then just got to live a quiet life. Thanos is the man. He's the man. But that is it, guys. We have reached the conclusion of Jim Starlin and Marvel's The Infinity Gauntlet. Oh man. We've reached the milestone, guys. We've just finished our first story together. I'm so happy. I had a lot of fun with it. I hope you guys had a lot of fun with it. Yeah, now we're just moving full steam ahead into this broader spectrum of the Marvel universe, of the DC universe. Obviously, the next story is going to be a little bit of DC. Gonna go ahead and tell you guys right now. Scott Snyder, Batman. Oh, that's coming soon, but yeah, I'm really excited for that. There's going to be a bunch of smaller videos at that time because I'm about to start class again soon. But yeah, for a direct follow-up, or the next story that follows after the Infinity Gauntlet is Infinity War. I had mentioned that. But for a direct follow-up of what happens immediately after, you would read Warlock and the Infinity Watch issues number 1 and 2 for a direct follow-up that leads directly into Infinity War. I'm probably going to cover those for you guys. But yeah, I'm super excited. Some other stories I can think of off the top of my head after we finish this DC Batman. I'm feeling a little Iron Fist. I'm really into some. Ooh, I'm not gonna tell you guys which one, but I guess this will be a hint. Quentin Tarantino. I feel like that's a good enough hint. But yeah, okay, I'm talking too much. I'm super excited, guys. We finally finished it. We've really just crossed a milestone. Now we're moving full steam ahead, guys. Wow. Let me know any questions that you guys have about the entire Infinity Gauntlet storyline. Let me know anything you guys want to know about the story, anything that comes after. Let's talk about it. Like the video if you guys liked it. And remember to subscribe so I can get these videos out to you guys. But yeah, you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.